everybody. Welcome to GoJo Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Claudia Bellafato here in the DraftKings studio in Boston. We got super producer Brandon in the studio out here, stage momming his ass off over here right now. He looks great. We got an even better show for you guys today. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us. Leave us a 5-star rating. Check us out here live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings network, as well as the best of GoJo and Golic, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you hear VSiN on the radio. Draft week rolling along. Oh. We are so close to being done with all the takes and actually just getting to see what these teams do. But in the meantime, Claudia, what do we have coming up today?
Are you guys going to even sleep tonight? It's like Christmas Eve, right?
I'm kind of like Christmas Eve.
It really is.
It is.
Yeah.
I can't wait. And we have all of your takes in here. Don't worry. So we were going to break these things
in the
down
wine
and
box.
See how many you got right in the wine
In the time capsule.
Oh, okay.
Why can't you just play along with the bit?
I'm sorry.
It's almost over. You know, it's almost over.
Yeah.
So close. Okay. God,
Coming
so
up
close.
on GoJo and Golic, where will Bo go? Bo Nix will join us ahead of the draft. South-specific AFC and NFC South draft preview. And a day in the sun, McDaniels, who leads the Wolves to a Game 2 win. Yep. Not who you thought it would be. We're going to talk a lot of hoops, guys, but we have to talk about what happened last night. Suns fall behind 0-2 to the Timberwolves. Pacers, Bucks tied up. Mavs, Clippers tied up. Lots of different storylines here. Of course, we have more games coming in for Game 2. Anything that really stuck out to you, Senior?
First, I'm happy you had to say South-specific.
Yeah, that was hard to say.
That's a tough one.
I just got that is it like a South Pacific play there? Is it a play off that?
Hey,
you can't sneak
well
that past
done.
me.
That could be it.
One of the smartest people known to mankind.
I was an academic
not you.
All-American.
Yes, you were. Just keep hanging on that one.
As you say, our producer Slate should be very proud of this. Like, Lord knows I am. It is between getting through that and then Claudia, burying the lead. 2 series have finally started now.
Yeah.
2 series.
Series doesn't start till a road team actually wins a playoff game, and so we always have to exist in this existential limbo. We made it, baby.
The first, 11 games, it was 11-0 to the home team, so 2 out of the 3 last night go to the road team. So, yes, we finally have started a couple of series. Thank God.
Yeah, big time there. And so much of it, I feel like, has boiled down to star availability. And that's why it was interesting looking at the late game last night first, where the Dallas Mavericks get a win in the game that Kawhi Leonard returns in. And, Dad, this is kind of what we talked about the other day is the difficulty of bringing back an injured star and not being sure exactly how much you're going to be able to get out of them, how much they're physically capable of at this point. And that's sort of been the looming cloud hanging over Kawhi for a while now during his Clippers tenure. But you saw it manifest last night, got going a bit in the second half, started to look more like himself. But Luka Doncic leading the defensive effort, not a typo for the Dallas Mavericks, makes the difference in this game.
I loved after going to the last first after the game, he was asked by whoever was interviewing, I forgot, was like, "You're not specifically known for your defense," and then went into, what made you kind of get after today. And it was just Luka basically didn't really get into it. It's just like, I just love basketball, man. It's what I wanted to do all my life. It's like there was really no answer.
Well, because he doesn't want to talk about defense. Like if he's doing well on defense, Claudia, I'd have to imagine it's purely accidental in Luka's mind.
That was the issue, is he didn't deny the fact that he doesn't usually play defense. He's like, well, it's the playoffs. Okay, well, if you did that during the regular season, not that he doesn't have enough to do on this team.
Sure, but Luka Doncic is like a pass rush first pass specialist. If he makes a few plays in the run game, hey, that's a luxury for you. And if Luka Doncic gives you defensive effort in addition to what he's doing for you as an offensive scorer, then, Dad, that's gravy for the Dallas Mavericks. You've got other people who are worse at basketball for that defense stuff.
It is, but on the other side with the Clippers, you got Kawhi Leonard back. It was much like when Joel Embiid came back. You're like, okay, what are we going to get? Remember, they finished the regular season on an eight win run, and as he was getting his win, and Kawhi Leonard kind of felt it last night. Now, he again had a lower body injury, so while you can practice and get ready cardiovascularly for the games, and he was still winded, you can't get ready for the banging, because even though you can practice full.
Well, and they said he hadn't practiced with contact.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
He was practicing, but he wasn't getting knocked around in practice. So you can imitate the running, but you can't imitate the contact that goes on in a game, and you're not going to do it. You're not going to say, hey, Kawhi, let's get you ready and start banging you around in practice. That's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So he had to get used to that. Started, as you said, heating up a little bit in the second half.
I laughed, Claudia, because I saw one moment in particular that was the most relatable thing for me and Kawhi Leonard as someone who's been nursing a back injury most of this week. I saw at one point when Kawhi did get knocked down in the game, and it took him so long within the body of that play to get back up. I was like, that is a man in his mid-30s trying to figure out how to gut his way through this.
And the issue with this team is, we sort of said heading into the playoffs, he needs to be healthy. That has been the issue with him. But it was sort of the flip side. They won without him. Then he was back in the fold. It's going to take some time for the team together to figure that out with him being long.
He was 7 of 17, missed all 5 of his threes in this one. So did play 35 minutes, so the wind will come back. Started to get better in the second half. And in all honesty, listen, they had the lead at halftime, did the Clippers. They built that to I believe it was a 6-point lead. And then Dallas went on a 14-0 run. And that was kind of, while the Clippers brought it back to 3 points a couple of times, one time I think with 20 seconds ago, 93-90, they just couldn't overcome. And Dallas gets that much-needed win on the road.
So Luka Doncic, 32-9, which pretty normal offensive night for him, like ho-hum by Luka Doncic standards there. But according to ESPN stats and info, the Clippers, 2 of 17 from the floor when Luka Doncic was the primary defender. They missed all 11 shots that Luka Doncic contested, the second most field goal attempts contested without allowing a make in a playoff game over the last 5 years.
Wow.
Things I never anticipated reading about Luka Doncic, who, listen, helped seal the game at the end too, some big shots the way that we're used to, and feeling it. Like, it was awesome to see. You got him and Kawhi Leonard really going dueling pianos at the end, both making big shots, especially from distance, that looked like the difference in this game. And so, Dad, the Dallas Mavericks, who were another team you talk about getting hot at the end of the season, Luka's MVP case building down the home stretch of the year here, carrying over into the postseason against the Clippers team that, listen, we still all kind of don't know. It's a grab bag of what to expect from them on any given night. James Harden does appear to kind of be the constant in terms of being the guy that's the creator for them, at least being able to initiate offense. I saw Bomani Jones having the conversation the other day about, hey, Paul George's role in all this. Fascinating. A guy who's lived well as the 1 option on certain teams and lived well as the 3 option on certain teams. But in that ground in between can sometimes get a little blurry.
Yeah, and you wonder with Harden, sometimes he comes up big, but we've seen sometimes, he just clanks them. Last night, one of those nights, just 2 of 10 from three-point land. As a team, they stunk. They shot, under 27% from three-point land, so they weren't hitting those. You had 4 of the 5 starters for Dallas in double figures. So now, again, we always talk about the non-stars, what they can do. Can you get something from them on the road? You can get something from them at home, but they pull out this win and now grab home court from the Clippers, and you always wonder with the age of some of the players, and certainly add in the injury to Kawhi Leonard, how longer series go and how they hang.
I mean, this is also just extraordinary. Like, you're trying to overcome so much meme inertia if you're the Clippers. You're already the Clippers, so we're a team that's used to watching you fall short of expectations. Even during your best years, during the Lob City years, like, we were always conditioned to wait for you to fail. And then postseason James Harden on top of that, as the person that's supposed to be the guy you're counting on right now in the midst of, again, Paul George stood on his head back a couple playoffs ago when it was just him out there when injury kind of rendered the rest of that team off the court. But now James Harden having to be the dude, like, we're asking you to overcome forces that are much larger than basketball in this series. So anyone expecting the Clippers to win, I mean, God, you were already barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, you were, and it's going to turn into a unicorn series because we've talked about Dallas and defense. So already, I mean, you just kind of throw everything to the wind there. I mean,
so it sounds like you guys are high on the Mavs. I want to bring in the odds then at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, the Mavs are the favorite to win this series at -135. Now, the fact that they're heading home, though, that number's going to get a lot more juiced if they win the next one or the next 2. How many games do you see this going, Senior? And would you bet that price now at -135? Because that's probably the cheapest you'll get.
I mean, they did exactly what you need to do when you're the road team in a series and don't have home court advantage. You get one on the road. That's what they did. So series goes to their favor. We thought this was going to be a close series, and by seeding, it was going to be thought to be a close series. So, now you kind of sway toward Dallas a little bit. I think you still wonder about Harden because you see him be hot, you see him be cold. Kawhi Leonard's going to be kind of that X factor of how quickly can he get back to what he is, and because the expectation that we're going to talk about Dallas's defense more than a couple of times in this series is pretty much not going to happen.
No, not likely. So I could see this series going 6. Like, I do think the Clippers, now that you've integrated Kawhi back into the lineup again, that'll get a little bit easier to figure out, all right, exactly what we think we're going to get. This is kind of like a bunch of jabs early on in most of these postseason series. So I could see this going in 6, but I picked Dallas to win this one. I think at this point, that's the side that I can trust with this tandem. And I'm kind of excited for the future of them. We've talked about this before, but Luka and Kyrie now going forward with Kyrie, I believe, eligible for an extension again this summer, right? Or am I... Is that, I'd have to look at
that sounds right, I'll check.
It feels spiritually right, but either way, excited about the future, excited about the present. I think I'm a little bit distracted because, Claudia, I'm really excited to talk about the Timberwolves right now. Not a thing I came in expecting to say.
I am too.
But the prophet that is Anthony Edwards, now watching his prophecy come to fruition last night, has become my favorite thing in sports.
Yeah, and I would usually say if you're looking into the future, it would be Anthony Edwards going off in the postseason. We've seen it before. But no, it was Jaden McDaniels, and Anthony Edwards actually predicted this would happen. Edwards just 15 points last night, Cat only 12 in 24 minutes. Jaden McDaniels, though, 25 points, 8 and 3, career postseason best, stepped up big on defense, one of the best defensive players on the floor. And this all resurfaced a clip from last year where Anthony Edwards said, yeah, you guys better start believing in him. He was asked, how you guys going to stop KD? And he said, they got KD, but we have Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah.
McDaniels asked about the viral comment after the game. Here's what he had to say.
Can't know what he's talking about, so just, I mean, we love to compete, so it's just something for me just to kind of have a chip on my shoulder knowing that, like, I still got to go out here and show people that I can play defense, I can guard KD, and just I can score as well. So just being myself, really.
So he missed the first round of last year because he broke a hand with frustration, punching the wall. So clearly passion out of this guy, which you love to see. Is this a one-game thing? Are we going to continue to see this? How did Ant see this coming, though, GoJo?
So, you know what? Some guys just know. And also maybe recognize that passion in others, because I think the fun thing about this Timberwolves team is Anthony Edwards is a guy that leads with emotion. He is this incredible ball of energy that we've seen harnessed more and more. What he's done as a guy that creates plays for other people, in addition to being able to call his own number, all of that's been great. And so I'm sure he can see that in other people. And listen, for Jaden McDaniel, incredibly long, talented, like matching up with Kevin Durant, a difficult prospect for most mere mortals because we're used to seeing him, Dad, get the ball at the top of the key, just be able to turn and shoot over most dudes. So being able to stick him, that's great. The fun part about this Timberwolves team for me is you've got that going on because you had a guy, especially last night, like Mike Conley, as the adult in the room. And I think as you look at this series, the thing we always wondered about the Suns is what are they going to be able to do in pivotal moments being they don't have an actual floor general out there? You had your big three out there, but you don't necessarily have someone like Mike Conley who they said, hey, I know I could score 30 a game. That's not my job on this team. He's the governor on this team. You see him bring the ball up the court in a pivotal moment, let's slow things down. Let's get to the action that we need to get to be successful here. And that allows guys like Jaden McDaniel, guys like certainly Anthony Edwards to be able to go out there and flourish.
I still remember years ago during contracts, and we always see this because we get surprised, when Mike Conley was the highest paid player in the NBA.
Yeah, what a time.
I mean, it's amazing to think about where that's all gone. But in a game where guys you count on, Anthony Edwards and Cat, they had 7 points combined at halftime. Karl Anthony Towns had 3 fouls in the first quarter. That's the thing you always hate to see because then he's got to sit on the bench. So who else is going to step up? What McDaniels did, obviously offensively, because defensively, I mean, you look at him defensively, anybody he's guarding, the Suns players he's guarding, they shot under 29% when he's been guarding them. So you're getting that from the defensive side. But then when you pop in 25 on the offensive side, well, when you needed it, when your stars were not producing the way they normally produce, or the expectation is, that's what I always talk about in these postseason series, or whether it's one game or a series, who is that person that steps up and gets out of what they normally do and adds. McDaniels with 25 points is doing that to help also off his defensive side. So that's what you need, somebody to step up. Again, Phoenix up 1 at half in this one, 51-50, and they just kind of got worn down.
Well, because that's the thing is they needed this because normally Minnesota had gone all in on the two towers approach to this, right? Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert fresh off most NBA players telling them they think he's overrated and they don't like him. Karl Anthony Towns still trying to work his way back from injury, that late season knee surgery that they had worked him back from in the lead up to the playoffs. And Yusuf Nurkic came in like an absolute missile and just decided to bully them in the first half. Went for 10 and 14 in this game, but physically set a tone inside that they were not matching early on in this game. But to your point, got them into foul trouble, got them out of the rotations they wanted to be in player-wise. And so I thought that was going to be the story. If you had stopped this after the first half, I thought the story was going to be Yusuf Nurkic comes in and bullies what's supposed to be part of the core of this Minnesota Timberwolves team. And instead, Jaden McDaniels comes to the rescue, like you said, not only defensively, but offensively offsetting Anthony Edwards, who is still the star of this team.
Yeah, he is.
But last night, the Suns treated him like that.
Right,
they threw bodies at him all the time. They built the wall for him in the paint and made sure he wasn't going to be the one like in game one to get them again.
It's that, do you let the star, it was way back in the Jordan days, you let Jordan get his 50 and stop everyone else and win, which could happen, or do you try and stop him and see who else is going to step up, or can someone else step up? And McDaniels did, because they even shot horribly from three-point land. They were in the 20% from three-point shooting as well. So it's not like they were lights out, shooting from deep. So who is that other guy that steps up? That's always been a key thing for me.
The others.
Yeah, 28% from the three for the Timberwolves. So let me ask you this, bringing back the odds. Timberwolves, of course, when you're up 2-0, you're going to be a heavy favorite. Minus 400, though, now going on the road. This is the point where you would grab the Suns if you have faith they do turn it around at plus 330. So that asks the question, do they turn it around, Senior, from what you've seen?
I don't have faith in them doing that. I think Minnesota's too good with what they have. They got, as we talked about, anybody with injuries coming back, with Embiid coming back, with Kawhi coming back, Cat coming back. How quickly do you simulate yourself back in from a conditioning standpoint. I just think they're too good, with Phoenix, and we're going to find another team that Kevin Durant has gone to where they can't get over the hump, like in Brooklyn, which was an absolute mess, and now in Phoenix, where you're hoping with Beal and Booker and Durant, you had that three that you want, even though Beal had missed some time during the year, that you would finally get the run. It's not going to happen.
I guess that's the thing, though. It's the same story that we saw in Brooklyn, which is, hey, you came in with the best plans of trying to be one of the last few teams that's really microwaving results with great players all coming together at once like that, at least in the current landscape of the NBA. But they just didn't have enough time together. It was the same thing in Brooklyn. Now, injury in the postseason ended up undermining them too. But you had that year, I think it was something ridiculous, like 7 combined games with the big three together. But the Suns weren't much better this year in having those guys all on the court at the same time. And again, I'll go back to, in certain moments, you're kind of wondering who's in charge and who's there to facilitate for everybody else when you've got all these great potent scoring options versus on the other side. Again, like the indelible image from last night to me was Mike Conley just bringing the ball, calming everybody down. Like, hey, the night's not going well for you, calm everybody down. Karl Anthony Towns in foul trouble, so we got to act a little bit differently, calm everybody down. He was the adult in the room for that team last night, and I think the fact that you've got all of these complementary parts on that team, it's not to say they can be what Denver's being, because Denver's the ultimate example of, like, you've got a bunch of guys on that team that all do different things that fit really well together. You got Michael Porter Jr. as the knockdown shooter on the outside. You've got Jokic, obviously, as the straw that serves the drink. Jamal Murray as your clutch shot maker at the end. Aaron Gordon, as I said, one of the most unique forces at power forward in the NBA. You don't necessarily have that, but you do have this unique blend of big man talent in there, Mike Conley on the outside, Anthony Edwards as this unique gravity on the court. And so they're a really interesting out in the Western Conference as we start to potentially look ahead.
A couple of notes on both teams. Grayson Allen, who's had a career year.
Oh, huge moment.
Yeah,
the third quarter.
17 minutes last night. Third quarter, rolls an ankle, doesn't come back. X-rays were negative. They'll see where that goes. And for Minnesota, since 1992, between baseball, basketball, and hockey franchises, they've combined for 43 playoff series. They've been up 2-0 in just 4 of those. So this is not an area they're used to being in. Up 2-0 in a series, but they're in command of this series as it now goes back to Phoenix, and to me, they're just the better team.
A very happy Alex Rodriguez in a cream sweater on the sideline of this game. Just don't mind that we're going through mediation with the whole sale of the franchise. Just watch what's going on the court. Coming up next, though, an interesting day on and off the court for Tyrese Maxey and the 76ers. We'll crash land into the 2-minute report coming out of Philadelphia next here on GoJo and Golic. Welcome back to GoJo Golic. We fell into the trap, guys. We got caught up by the NBA TV game. NBA TV game.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Pacers-Bucks happened last night, but it happened on NBA TV, so that can kind of be a tree falls in the woods situation for some people here. But, Dad, the Pacers, big recovery, big response, went out here and got it done. 125-108. The cannon goes the other way this time around. And Pascal Siakam, a big night to now notch this series, another series in the NBA playoffs that has started at this point. So wanted to give them the love that they deserve.
So a guy that comes over from the Raptors, so he has that, obviously, that playoff and championship experience from that 2019 Raptors championship team. Went for 36 in game one in the loss, 37-11 last night in getting the win. You know, they kind of had to offset Dime, Damian Lillard, what he's been, Dame, I should say.
Dime.
I've called him Dime. Well, he is an assistant.
Dime 10.
He will assist, guys, but Dame.
Sure.
Yeah,
I like
we'll go with that. I just misspoke. How about that?
All right, there you go. That's cool,
here's
too.
a guy who, Well, first about Siakam. Whenever you're listed with Chamberlain, you have to read the stat.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
First NBA player to open a postseason with consecutive 35 and 10 performances since Wilt in 1967. So, again, when you're mentioned with Wilt, you got to mention that. Damian Lillard has been incredible. 35 in the first half of game one, 26 in the first half in this game as well, finished with 34. So he has been hot in the first half of these games, but not enough last night. Giannis still out. Remember, he strained that calf. He's been out.
This looked a little bit more like the team that didn't have their best player on the court than game one.
Exactly. So, when are you getting him back? How soon can he get back? Now, again, another series that just started because we finally had 2 road wins, as we talked about. They get in the road win now against Milwaukee as the series will go back to Indianapolis now. So Siakam is such a monster pickup for them. We've talked about this team. Are they happy to get there? Because it's been a while for them, to start to build again. But, they're like, we're gonna make this move right now.
Yeah, they're going to make this move right now on NBA TV where none of us saw it. So
they'll be back on.
I have to say, with Giannis out too, it just doesn't really help their case much. I know that they have Dame, but it's like, is anybody really wanting to watch the Pacers? And then without Giannis, it's just a tough sell. I get it.
We've seen this before from Dame. Like, we know what it looks like when it's Dame, and we wanted to see what it looked like with Dame and another massive superstar, and we're not getting that yet, and we feel a little bit robbed. It is interesting comparing this, and we'll get to Tyrese Maxey's interesting night as we get to the games coming up tonight. I saw this just now, though, kind of scrolling the timeline. Dominique Foxworth, great podcast, him and his producer, Charlie Kravitz, we're talking about the conversation around Nikola Jokic. We're handing out awards in the NBA. Tyrese Maxey got his for most improved last night. They talked about that with the Inside the NBA crew that we can get to. But Nikola Jokic up for another MVP. Most people assume he's the odds-on favorite to win it again here. After a year ago, we were having the conversation around the MVP race with him and Embiid where, now he hasn't won a championship, so can we really put him in this class of accomplished players all time without that hardware in a sport that we seem to demand that of? And now it's almost gone the other way where people are bending over backwards to be overwhelmingly effusive with praise on Nikola Jokic because he notched that one championship. Dad, do you think water's going to find its level at some point? Because I saw Dominique try to make the point that there aren't a lot of players with one championship that we allow to dominate the conversation like this. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a great example of a guy who, he got that championship early on, so it kind of cut him off from a lifetime of those conversations around, he hasn't gotten the ring yet. Is he going to be one of the greatest to ever do it without a ring? Now it seems like we've so gone the other way where we had all these pent-up kind things to say about Jokic that people didn't want to say in public, and now we're just letting the floodgates open up.
Yeah, but also it gets to now you win multiple, right? It's not just you got to get that one. Kind of like with Peyton Manning. When he got the one, it was like, can he get multiple? Because if you're going to start comparing people to some of the greatest ever, normally those players have multiple championships. But I get what you're saying about Jokic. It would have been interesting had Embiid been healthy all year because he was having the year, right?
His first half of the season.
He was having the year. Now, again, doesn't have a championship to his name in the process there as they're trying to build one. But with Jokic, it's down to 3. Him, SGA, and Luka, right? Those are the 3 five.
Every straw poll you've seen, every article that takes some sort of account of this, it seems like Jokic is going to be the guy, even if Luka has had a phenomenal. Honestly, Luka's had the kind of season we used to reward Jokic for. Claudia, you're balking a little bit over.
No, I'm saying poor. I'm trying to find the odds right now if they're still up. I'm just saying poor Luka because of everything that he does, and now he's actually playing defense, and the fact that he can't be given the credit for both.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but he is clearly the most valuable player. You pluck him off that team.
You pluck Jokic off the Nuggets. I don't think it looks anywhere close to
They definitely have more depth. I would think.
Here's where I always disagree about that argument. We always say take them off the team. You take the star off any team, they're not winning the champion, and that's what we're talking about,
but
right?
Dallas more specifically.
But
I would
does it matter if you don't win the championship without Luka and don't win the championship without Joker? I mean, does it matter?
It's not just the binary of that. It's how far do they fall? How different is that team without that player there? Perfect example. We're talking about this Pacers series without Giannis. They blew the Pacers out in game one without the best player on their team. It's a bit of a different impact because the skill set's very different. That's why Luka, to Claudia's point, certainly offensively what he means there, but that's why I'll push back on the notion with Jokic and the Nuggets. That dude creates everything for that team. That's not to diminish what Jamal Murray means to them as a point guard, but man, what he does for the rest of that offense overall, I think cannot be overstated. It's just funny because, Dad, this is the position he was in years ago, winning the MVP on a 6th seed in the Western Conference, that people were looking and going, well, can you be that valuable when the team has only been so good and successful? He showed yes back then. Luka should be the beneficiary of that now. The problem is he's run into final form Nikola Jokic that's got the championship hardware and is still playing like the best player in the world.
So with Luka and with SGA, if either one of them gets a crack at Denver and Jokic and beats them, then going into next year, if they have that monster year, that's what could put somebody over the top to take out Jokic.
They would, but that's the biggest difference is neither of those teams, in my mind, is situated to match up. We were talking about it before the show. Like, the Timberwolves are interesting and out to give them. I think Oklahoma City would be a pretty terrible matchup to go against Denver.
I agree with you.
He's saying a strong hypothetical.
It is.
That is, believe me, it's a hypothetical. But it's a way of putting somebody ahead of Jokic because Jokic is going to win it this year. But that would be a way of maybe going into next year saying that one of those guys, if they have another monster year, could be ahead of Jokic, even though it's a regular season award. But if you saw one of those guys, one of those teams, and if one of those teams beat Denver, it would be because either one of those guys.
Well, then you have Mount Everest expectations, though. So it's almost like anything you do the next season is just going to be seen as a disappointment.
But a lot of times it is that, especially if it's a person who hasn't won it, it's you had a great year and you sometimes don't get the recognition you deserve until you do it again the next year. Right?
Oh, I think there is something to the inertia of that. Like, you've got to build up and bank that equity with people. But that's why it's a regular season award, but it's got a postseason hangover.
Exactly right.
Because so much of that reputation, that inertia, gets built when you're in the postseason. It's why, hey, we took a year off from Nikola Jokic, and what did he do? He went ahead and won a championship. So in the back of your mind, we've seen plenty of MVPs for years. There's been that thing where a lot of them don't even make the conference finals in the year that they win the award, and people end up kind of feeling this little bit of like tinge of, oh, did we get this wrong? Did we do something? I think Nikola Jokic now gives you some of that warm fuzzy of, hey, he's clearly putting up numbers in the regular season. Some of the deep statistics, especially win shares per 48 and a lot of those other things, all skew heavily in favor of him. And now you've got the backdrop of, oh, that's clearly the best team in basketball. Right. Oh, we feel like they've got a real good chance to repeat. And so if you're a voter, whether that's subconscious or not, I think in the back of your mind, you've got that assurance that you've bought something that has that assurance.
You feel like you got the payoff, right? Even though the postseason has nothing to do with the MVP, you feel like you got the payoff for getting it right in that situation. So, but I agree. I don't think anybody can knock off Denver in the West anyway. So my hypothetical is not going to happen.
I saw where you were going with it, but
I'm trying.
2-hour show. We got to throw out hypotheticals.
Trying to do something here.
Congratulations to Tyrese Maxey for winning the Most Improved Player of the Year.
I know.
I'm sorry we let Nikola Jokic bogart your segment,
but it's
you
the
deserve
MVP.
This. Sorry, that's showbiz, baby. Because coming up next, we got to take a look at the South as we get ready for the NFL draft here. Next on GoJo and Golic.
NFC South and some of the biggest needs ahead of tomorrow's NFL draft. And speaking of the NFC South, the Falcons and Eagles, well, the Falcons, also the Eagles, were being looked into for off-season tampering allegations. However, not concluded, but it looks like if it's going to affect the draft, it'll be next year, not this year. So the Falcons should remain with their number 8 pick overall. UCLA's Laiatu Latu is the favorite to go to them at plus 150, and then Bama's Dallas Turner at plus 175. Decent drop-off to the rest of the group. So guys, as you look at those odds and look at some other speculations, Schefter says maybe Michael Penix Jr. will drop to them. What makes the most sense? What do you think is the best?
Not that.
Not that. I love
it.
Everyone's just throwing out their fastball for these last couple of days now.
You know what? You could throw out anything. Anything. See our social media at some point. We'll do that. Throw out anything out
We're hearing a lot.
We're hearing, boy. We're hearing. We're all hearing stuff.
Are telling us some pretty crazy stuff.
Crazy things happen.
I can't even begin to tell you some of the rumors that we're hearing.
But Dad, I will say this is also the time. It was draft week a few years ago where all of a sudden, late in that week, Baker Mayfield shoots up to the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Like, the reason we believe some of this stuff, or at least have to take pause, is because in the past we've seen it actually come to fruition. Now, with Atlanta, it's interesting as you look at the NFC South. Obviously, Kirk Cousins made this conversation very different for them heading into the draft this year. They get to start off with a guy coming off of an Achilles injury. There's certainly questions about that, but a defense that was vastly improved last year, a new regime coming over here with a defensive-minded head coach in Raheem Morris, and the 8th overall pick in a draft that's really interesting defensively because Claudia mentioned the 2 guys at the top of the odds there, and Laiatu Latu and Dallas Turner, completely different players, right?
Yeah.
Laiatu Latu, we're talking about this, the most, I think, complete pro-ready of these edge rushers in this class in terms of what he offers you in pass rushing prowess. And Dallas Turner, a lot more in line with what we've seen this Atlanta franchise pick in recent memory, which is incredibly toolsy player with upside. Reminds me a lot of the guys that they've tended to major in. So part of me wants to say, hey, maybe you go for something that's a little bit more fully formed in Latu that you can get on the field right now who, all these guys have some flaws defending the run, but Latu at the very least comes in as a fully formed NFL pass rusher.
He does, and a lot of people, you wonder sometimes when you say a more ready pro. Like when I look at that as far as like, say, interior D linemen, those are guys that use their hands better. Because I think that's one of the biggest transitions a D lineman, especially interior, has to make to the NFL is how well you use your hands. For the outside, for these edge rushers, how well can you hold up against a run? Certainly is something that can help make you a complete player. But Mike, a lot of times these edge rushers are so good that they rarely have to go into their counters. So to me, a more ready guy is a guy that has some counter moves because I don't care how great you were in college, especially if you had one great move, whether it was turning the corner on a low dip or a rip or coming underneath on a spin, whatever it was, you are going to have to expand your toolbox on your counters because you are not going to get away with one move in the NFL coming from college. So that's one of the bigger things I think as well, guys that are ready and already have some counters in their toolbox.
I'd probably at this point, you're fine with both. I'd probably take Latu at this point. I understand the injury history is a bit of a concern.
Yeah.
Dallas Turner, the way he moves is so incredibly enticing. I remember again,
I agree.
He was the forbidden fruit on the other side of Will Anderson Jr. last year, where you'd see one player who was ruthlessly efficient and the other who just did these things naturally that few people on earth can do. But I think that's going to be the route that they probably go there. That defense made huge strides and improvements last year.
I agree.
While the offense fluttered with Desmond Ridder, a chance to be more complete, provided Kirk Cousins comes back in his normal Kirk Cousins. Dad, let's look at the New Orleans Saints. I saw yesterday, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, that said, find me a team that has a need more pressing than the Saints and offensive tackle in this draft. And they missed on Trevor Penning in the draft a few years ago out of, I believe, Northern Iowa. You've got Ryan Ramczyk, who's, been getting up there now. And so I think there's a premium here. 14, you're still going to be within range of some really good guys, I think.
You are, and it's a shame for old linemen at times because people who watch the draft sometimes see an old lineman, they're like, oh, it's kind of that unsexy pick, right? But it's really not. I mean, it's a cornerstone.
It's incredibly sexy.
It's well, don't get carried away.
Hot.
It's an absolute cornerstone for an offensive line, protection, run blocking, and what you need to get somebody locked up on that line. So while I think it's deemed that way outside of quarterbacks and wide receivers, this is such a deep offensive line, especially offensive tackle draft, that you're going to get. And you were talking about grass and the such before the show, and it seemed like the best hit rate for first-round picks at a position to sign second contracts with their team was offensive tackle. So that's the stability of that position.
So Sam Hoppen, who does a great job, data scientist, works over at Fantasy Pros now. Adam Schefter put out this chart that our buddy Paul Hembekides put out about the hit rate of players and positions picked in the first round over the last 20 years. So from 2000 to 2019. Sam went a step further and broke it down based on guys who signed second contracts, multi-year extensions with the team that drafted them. And since 2000, between 2000 and 2019, so in that 2-decade span, no position signed multi-year deals with the team that drafted them at a higher rate than offensive tackle. It tends to be blue chip stock that you buy at that position. And so as we look at that, we talked with Duke Manyweather yesterday about a guy he's training in Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. Would be a home run there. Talisi Fuaga. But I think those guys could be off the board by then. J.C. Latham has had a big offseason. The offensive tackle out of Alabama, an absolute monster. I mean, we talk about bubble butts when it comes to offensive line in the draft. Yeah. This dude's got a lower body that makes GMs and scouts salivate. I think he could be a great pickup there for them at 14. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers down at 26, Dad. This is a really interesting team. Brought back Baker Mayfield. This offense going to look a little bit different since their offensive coordinator got hired by the Carolina Panthers. But the people looking and mocked there, a lot of offensive line, edge rusher there, which could be Chop Robinson range out of Penn State.
Right, because
an interesting prospect.
They lost Shaq Barrett on the defensive side, and Latu again, if he's going to be there. And you mentioned him before. We should say the injury issue. This is a guy that retired from football. Yeah, he retired from football with a neck injury and then came back. So, yeah, you could see where people may have a concern there, but I love watching that kid play there.
I do too. I think down there you look to some of the recent draft picks missing on edge rusher there. That defense in general going to be a little bit of an overhaul there, but I don't know. I could see Chop Robinson probably coming off the board there because, again, I don't see Latu being there. It's going to depend on who else that edge class pushes down potentially there. What happens with Jared Verse, the prospect out of Florida State?
He's the guy, remember, is he a guy that could be, someone's going to drop? Is he a guy that could be a dropping edge rusher? We'll wait and see. It always happens, so we'll find out on Thursday there. But I do think they end up going edge rusher.
Yeah, this is really, again, these are the defending division champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers who surprised everybody with the roster last year. So where they choose to add interior offensive line in a group that's been re-raking itself since the Super Bowl also could be on the board. And then there's the Panthers, who don't own a first-round pick this year, traded theirs to the Chicago Bears last year in the trade to go up and get Bryce Young. And this offseason, they've been busy, Dad. They went out here and said, all right, we've got a small quarterback who struggled mightily last year. We went and spent a ton of money on offensive line to bring in Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt to try and protect him there. On the other side, you lost edge rusher big time in Brian Burns, Frankie Louvu, your linebacker also gone. So that could be a route to go. But, Dad, we know the charge for the Panthers this year is get weapons around Bryce Young, revitalize Bryce Young. And so you'd imagine wide receiver going to be the flavor of the day for them at the top of the second round.
This, to me, is a no-brainer. We talked about the depth of the offensive tackle. Wide receiver position is the deepest, I think, in this draft, right? So you're going to be able to get some quality at that point. And you have to understand last year, I think he's 32 or 33, Adam Thielen led the team in receptions with 103. The next closest was Jonathan Mingo, the wide receiver, with 43.
Yeah.
I mean, so that is absolutely the route they have to
And
go.
I think here, the thing was, even with Adam Thielen, is they didn't have anyone that could get open. You looked around and stopped the tape for Bryce Young. You're looking at it's tight window throws everywhere. You need a professional route runner, and my God in heaven, Lad 2D McConkey has been remixing dudes in the SEC for years now. The guy might be eligible for a pension plan at this point, but I think you get him there if he's still on the board. He's a guy that could leak into the back end of the first round. If Lad is available, run. Don't walk to get the guy from the other SEC school that Bryce Young used to have to pay attention to. Draft week keeps rolling along, and we get to talk to one of the big quarterback names that expects to be called early on in this one. Former Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, kind enough to join us now here on behalf of Old Spice. Certainly want to hear all about what you got going on there. But Bo, for you, man, 61 starts during your time in college, finally getting ready to turn the page to the NFL. What's this process been like for you after all this time?
It's been great. It's what I've looked forward to for so long. It was, I think, a great thing that I was able to, experience so much in college to where it's going to make, the transition hopefully better than if I didn't do all the experience. So I'm excited for that, excited for the transition, excited to be on a new team, and ready for this process to be complete.
Yeah, I tell you, you did what we tell college kids to do all the time: stay in college as long as you can. It's a beautiful thing, and you did, and you were successful. So as you now get ready to turn what you did and love to do into your profession, what in your mind are the things that you had to work on the most as you get ready for this next level?
Well, I think just obviously control the things that you can, control the things that are in your control. And when you go out there, just put a product on the field that, is going to win games. Because at the end of the day, it's all about being efficient, winning games. And there's many different ways of doing that. But I felt like this year we were able to put a complete year together. We were very multiple offensively. We threw the ball around, a lot. We ran the ball efficiently. We used explosive plays. We used creative plays. And, at the end of the day, it's all about, keeping the ball off the ground, getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers. And that's what I did. And we prepared really hard going into the weeks. We studied the game, and we had great game plans. And each week I felt great and comfortable and went out there and played really good. So that's what I'm excited about, the product that I put on tape and continue to, be complete each and every year and always learn different things, always get better, always be in a, stage of growing and not trying to be anything other than the best version of yourself.
Well, you mentioned keeping the ball off the ground. You set the NCAA's new single-season completion percentage record, so certainly a clean sheet there. I'm curious, though, you mentioned kind of learning, growing the whole way. 61 starts, that's a ton of football. Are you a guy with that kind of photographic memory? Do you remember a lot from each of those stops along the way, or is they all kind of blur together after a while?
No, I can remember pretty much each and every game, specifically, and some of the plays could get fuzzy. I've been in so many systems, the plays can start to run together, but, pretty much every moment and everything I can remember. That's what I think is the fun part. I made the most out of my college career. I took everything I could out of it. I exhausted my eligibility. I don't have any regrets, and excited for the future because I know I put myself in a situation that I can, go from what I learned and use what I learned to, better myself in the future.
From a quarterback standpoint, there's so much that goes into the position, and everyone got to know your name early. You burst onto the scene really early on in your career at Auburn, ironically enough, against the team you would wind up playing for in Oregon one day. When you made that jump from Auburn to Oregon, from the SEC to the Pac-12, what was the biggest thing you knew then, hey, I wanted to get better at, I wanted to improve on based off what I already knew about myself after all these starts at Auburn?
Well, I just wanted a little bit more opportunity, I guess, to be myself and to go out there and, put everything I had on film and throw and run and make checks and do everything that a quarterback does. That's what Coach Dillingham gave me a chance to do. And then Coach Stein picked up where he left off, and we had an awesome year this past year. So, it worked out how it was supposed to go. And I was able to, graduate from Auburn, but then I was able to go and really follow my dreams and go after everything and compete, for everything that I wanted at Oregon.
Bo, fans can watch pro days, they can watch combines, obviously watch you play. But I like when you're able to take fans inside to where they can't be. And for the 99% of people who will never be in your position, take us inside a classroom when you're talking to a team, an NFL team, of what they're asking you and putting you through to try and prepare you or see if they want to draft you.
Yeah, so they'll put you in, a meeting room. You'll have about, 10 to 15 other, guys a part of their organization, whether it's an analyst, a coach, a GM, somebody, high up, whoever it is, they're all in there listening and evaluating, and they'll ask you, different questions. They could go through a presentation with you and, get you going, then ask you to get up on the board and go over everything you learn. And they'll give you, a time crunch, and they'll, pepper you with questions, and they just try to make this environment, pressure packed and just a lot going on, see how you react. And that's the main thing. I mean, you're not going to have all the answers. You're going to have to figure a few of them out. You're going to have to just do the best you can. But as long as you don't get flustered and you just keep the main thing, like they do a lot of this knowing you're not going to be able to keep up and want to see how you react, want to see how you respond. So they, at the end of the day, they are coaches. So they want to teach you. They want to correct you. They want to be able to, coach you. So they don't want you to necessarily have all the answers. They just want to see how you respond. So it's a few minutes of just, a lot going on, and you just got to kind of weather the storm and do the best you can.
With that in mind, what is the biggest strength you think you bring to the next level as a quarterback that helped you navigate those situations?
Oh, just mental capacity, mental space. I feel like I have a great grasp and understanding for the game of football. I can pick up on, any offense. I've counting high school, I've played in 6 different offenses in 6 years. This will be my 7th, whoever it is in the league. So I'm a man that learns a lot of different offense, learns a lot of different football. So I've been able to piece those together and just, keep a mental bank of all the things that I've learned. And you could run the same concept, call it 6 different things, and be able to, run it the same way over and over. So that's what I've learned. I've been in so many systems and we've run so many plays. I've gotten under center, shotgun, all kinds of run plays, all kind of pass plays, all kinds of shifts and motions and cadences. And I've been able to do it. Honestly, I've been able to do it at the highest level. So I'm excited to move to the next level in the NFL and be a part of it. And there's so much that I'm eager to learn and eager to get used to. And there's so many experiences that I have not gone through yet that I'm going to be able to go through for the first time and learn and, learn from coaches who have been doing it for years and years, and other players who have been in the league for years, a lot longer than me. So I'm excited for that. And I'm excited to, again, go back to being a sponge and, learning everything I can again. In college, it got to where I was very comfortable on this thing. There's no eligibility that has to run out. So I'm excited about that. I get to throw the same football for the rest of my time. And once I'm done throwing the Duke, I might be I might be done throwing the ball in general. So this will be my last football, and I'm excited about that. It's just those little things that, when everything's going on crazy, you finally get to settle in and, this is it.
Yeah, I don't imagine grasping a new playbook is going to be too difficult for you. Before we get to Old Spice, who's going to be around for who you're sharing the draft with?
My family. I'm married, so my wife and I, we're going to have our immediate families there, and then we're going to have a close circle of people who have helped me get to where I am today. So many people, behind the scenes that have done so much, from prayers to insight to knowledge to whatever they could share with us and to get us to where we are. It's kind of a celebration. And so whatever happens, we're really looking forward to it, eager for wherever that may be. And I just know my wife and I are really excited to get to a new city and start competing to win Super Bowls.
Well, Bo, one of the things I know during your college career that you got used to was the change to the NIL era. You guys have become business people, entrepreneurs way earlier in your careers. It's become more professional than ever. You are here on behalf of Old Spice. So how has that benefited the way that you already approach this, and what do you got going on with Old Spice?
Yeah, it's been huge, and it's a great opportunity for the younger generation, the younger guys in college. But Old Spice has given me an awesome opportunity, to represent their new total body deodorant. It's long lasting. It goes 24/7, keeps you fresh, all over your body, from your pit to your toes. And, there's nothing that it can't do. So excited to represent this product. It's a unique product because it helps so many people in different ways, and especially for a guy like me who's in a locker room with football players, and we're always outside and sweating and getting nasty. So this is going to help us a lot.
Which of your former offensive linemen, and we'll go this last season at Oregon, would have most needed the full body deodorant?
Well, that's tough because some guys sweat a lot. Other guys, don't sweat. Some guys, smell. But fortunately for me, you can kind of stay away from them unless it's your center. Your center, you get up close and personal. The other guys, you can keep your distance, speak to them, but not necessarily get up there to smell them. But thank goodness for me, we had it taken care of. We had a lot of sweaters, a lot of guys that would just sweat a lot, but thank goodness they didn't just stink. So it made it a lot better.
Give them all a can of Old Spice.
Exactly.
Right?
You know what? And it's good to know.
Yeah. Now, if I knew what I know now, I'd supply them with a year's long worth of Old Spice that they can use and stay fresh. But that's what I get to do now moving forward.
There we go. You know what? Good for scouts to know. It sounds like Jackson Powers Johnson, not stinky. So we'll take that. Maybe a little sweaty, right. Not stinky. All right, there, perfect. Bo, we appreciate your time, brother. Thank you so much. Best of luck. We're excited to see what team you get to call home next up here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't wait.
Thanks, Bo.
We are excited to see where he ends up, and if we're taking a look at the DraftKings sports odds, Broncos pick at 12 overall. They are the favorite to land him at -130. Raiders next at pick 13. Decent jump, though, plus 475, so it looks like he will end up in Denver, Senior. How do you feel about this next step for him?
The one, obviously at this level, you hear the pros and the cons, and one of the criticisms of Bo is arm strength, especially whenever you see that quarterback on the opposite hash, because hashes are further out in college.
Yeah.
Make that opposite hash throw all the way to the other sideline. That's a pro throw, right? When they can get it there with some velocity. Don't get too hung up on that. That would be my word of advice, is you can make up, now you have to make up for lack of velocity by timing. If you time that throw well, because you talk about lack of velocity, you're talking about a DB jumping a route, but if you time it well, you can beat that. We've had guys come into this league, like go way back to Jeff George, had that strong arm, but if you can't do a lot with it and can't last, so be it. We see guys throw the ball long or on their pro day, make this unbelievable long throw, and we get hung up on that. Don't get hung up on that. Let's see where the throws go. Let's see. He's seen a lot of offenses. He should be able to pick up offenses pretty quick. If he's got that timing down, then velocity matters less.
Yeah, I just think with Bo Moore, the concern is like, hey, the offense was really RPO heavy. A lot of it's stuff that you just don't see as much in the NFL. And so much of his best stuff, like I called the first Washington-Oregon game during the regular season with the two of them. And I said, if you want a quarterback that's great when the script is all in place, Michael Penix Jr. is your guy. If you want a guy that's great when everything goes to hell, Bo Nix is your guy. So much of his best production, I thought, was when he had to ad-lib on the fly when things broke down. That doesn't win you as much in the NFL, especially when you're not the guy with the massive arm. When you got these guys with a big arm and all of a sudden it breaks down, Josh Allen, Mahomes, you can hum it into windows that most other people can't dream of. Bo, not as much. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up in the kind of system. I still don't know if I see him becoming a first-round quarterback.
I agree with
Denver's the one outlier because we've talked about the way that their picks are organized this draft. Desperation might take hold just because they don't have a successor at quarterback right now after the failed Russell Wilson experiment. So we'll wait and see the future there. But if you're sitting around here in America right now, the sound you just heard was elder millennials all crying out at the same time for the same reason, because we got breaking news from ESPN's Pete Thamel. Reggie Bush is getting his damn Heisman back. The 05 Heisman Trophy winner will have his trophy reinstated and the NCAA and the Heisman Trust, I should say, citing enormous changes in the college football landscape. The Heisman Trust decision comes after Bush forfeited his Heisman back in 2010 in the wake of NCAA sanctions. Yada, yada, yada. Dad, the Heisman Trust returning this is what we talked about the last time we said this, which is why does the Heisman Trust need to listen to the NCAA? They had last time this conversation come up said, hey, when the NCAA decides to reinstate his record, then we'll reinstate his Heisman. And we pointed out there is no part of the Heisman Trust that is governed by the NCAA. And I think they finally looked around and said, hey, the world's a different place now than the one that originally took Reggie's Heisman back. And common sense prevailed for the first time and alongside, because you know why? Johnny freaking football, baby. Johnny Manziel, you did it, you crazy SOB.
So, again, to Mike's point and those that don't know, the Heisman Trust has nothing to do with the NCAA. They do not have to follow NCAA rules. And for those that don't know, we'll go all the way back when Reggie Bush got in trouble when the school and that whole situation of getting his parents a place to live, the rules that they broke then that were rules that were broken.
Yeah, Reggie had a house and a car.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't cool back then, and it's cool now.
They were going to get into a bunch of trouble. Pete Carroll took off to Seattle.
Tails all the time,
The
baby.
Heisman got taken away. All kind of sanctions came down on USC. But again, the Heisman Trust did not have to. They could have said, listen, we get all that. He was still the best player on the field. He can keep his Heisman. But they didn't. They crumbled to the NCAA, and they took his Heisman away, which was ridiculous. And now Johnny Manziel, for those that don't remember, said he is boycotting. You know how in the Heisman Award you see all the former Heisman winners behind the podium. Johnny Manziel said he was boycotting the Heisman Trophy ceremony until Reggie gets his trophy back. And a lot of us thought, okay, if one guy's missing back there, is that really going to make a big difference? And in all honesty, was it Johnny Manziel who made this difference? But at least he started voicing it and sounding it. And if others would have also not shown, that would have been.
I was saying, and there were others that were vocally supporting.
It would have
Tim
been
Brown
interesting.
from our
Yes,
school, Matt
exactly.
Leinart from USC.
But imagine that ring of players behind the podium if that was down to a few players, if there were those that were going to do it. And maybe the Heisman Trust didn't want to take that chance at all.
Sure.
That other players would have jumped into it. But they did the right thing. They're giving him his trophy back. He deserves his trophy. I know what he did broke the rules at the time. But it's like vacated wins. It doesn't change the fact of what happened on the field. And Reggie Bush not only won the Heisman that year, Reggie Bush is one of the greatest college players of all time. So for him to get that trophy back, well, it's a symbolic thing, obviously, and literally you get a trophy, I get it. But it's about time, I guess I would say. This was the right move, and it never should have been taken away in the first place.
With him being recognized now, too, I think USC now owns, on its own, the record for most Heisman Trophy winners with 8.
They go ahead Notre Dame.
They go ahead and
It
was Notre Dame, and there were one other school they were tied with here that I can't find right. It was 7 each. Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Oklahoma all have 7 winners each. USC now has 8 and stands alone up top there. But, yeah, I mean, this is, first off, as a Heisman voter, very proud to see that the Heisman Trust made a great decision here. I commend them on that one now. It comes in the wake of maybe an ill-advised graphic, rest in peace graphic for O.J. Simpson, who still had his Heisman.
Yes, he did.
By the way, which sort of made this look even more ridiculous. Because, Dad, you mentioned it there. For me, Reggie Bush is the best football player in college I have watched with my own 2 eyes in my lifetime. Like when I fell in love with college football, even as a Notre Dame fan, it was early 2000s. USC was a big part of that. And Reggie Bush, that thunder and lightning backfield that he was a part of, some of the things he did that captivated in a way that very few players did then and have since, is to me that guy that's on top of the mountain in terms of guys I've watched personally in my lifetime. I understand plenty of great running backs, plenty of great players that have come before that. And so to see that, it's almost like the conversation we have, Dad, about the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame with Barry Bonds.
Right.
Like,
Roger Clemens,
we all know what we saw with the steroid era guys that are now not being acknowledged. That was a big part of my childhood that was left off to the side. It felt the same way with this lack of acknowledgement for Reggie Bush and the Heisman that now gets rectified.
People will push back and say, well, the steroids actually help you on the field to get better stats. And we all know Barry Bonds had a Hall of Fame career before that even happened.
And
but
everyone was doing it. We all made the money
Everybody
off
was
of
doing it.
it.
It's exactly
Grow
right.
up, Peter Pan.
Still, when McGuire and Sosa had the home run race, and people today say, if I knew they were on roids, I never would have watched. You're full of it, and you're lying to yourself.
Full of it.
You would have. But this is also a thing now we'll never see another illegal gains, money-wise or something else-wise, suspension again in college football. Because I remember when you guys went to Notre Dame, one of the things I got there was a golf cart, right?
Yeah.
And literally, there was a player one time at USC who got driven in a golf cart somewhere and had to pay a $20 penalty to the NCAA or would have got suspended. If you guys as scholarship athletes would have driven that golf cart on your own, you would have gotten in trouble. Think of how dumb that is to where we are now, where nothing like that will ever happen.
My buddy Gabe Eichert and those dudes went for seconds at a potluck dinner or like a buffet-style dinner and had to pay back money for all that. How far we've come.
You couldn't put cream cheese. You could get a bagel, but you couldn't have cream cheese on a bagel. These are all true things. This isn't made up stuff.
Hey.
And look where we are finally.
Johnny Manziel, a tip of the cap to you. And Reggie Bush, welcome back to the Heisman Trophy winner's circle. Richly deserved and about damn time.
with Joe Alt, destined for the Titans. It seems like with these thousands of mock drafts that we've had, 2 names and 2 teams have been tied together the most. Caleb Williams, number 1 overall to the Bears, of course, but also Joe Alt and the Titans. We've seen it a lot at pick 7, and taking a look at the odds at the DraftKings Sportsbook. To go pick 7 is minus 155. Titans to draft an alignment, minus 330. Him to go in the top 10 is crazy juiced odds, which I don't suggest playing because it probably will happen, but not a great payout. Joe Alt will join us on the show tomorrow to tell us about what he anticipates. But taking a look at him in particular, the rest of the AFC South, and just what the Titans will do in this draft in particular, how do you like their chances for improving this season?
It is interesting, Dad. For a while, I felt like this was a little less certain because so many of us looked at the Chargers at 5 and wondered, and I get it. Wide receiver, the cupboard is barren there. They've got Quentin Johnston, their former number 1 wide receiver pick from the other year, but doesn't seem like that took hold the way they wanted. New regime out there. I still do wonder, given Jim Harbaugh's background, if that's more in play there than we're giving it credit for. But if not, you've got Joe Alt who can come in here and pretty seamlessly slot in to be the left tackle of the future for the Titans.
Plus, everybody has the Chargers trading out of 5, too. Just about every mock draft has them dumping out of there. If they stay at 5, Alt could go there. Because of Jim Harbaugh, I could see them wanting to take one of the wide receivers, though. Because, I mean, we're talking those top 3, wherever you rank them. I think all 3 are going to have a great impact in the NFL, and they need receivers. So, to me, if the Chargers stayed at 5, I would have thought they would lean toward receiver. If not, I think it's going to be Alt, but everybody in the world has them trading out of it.
Joe has been the consensus number 1 tackle for a while now in a tackle class that is rich and decadent. What I will say is it's the perfect marriage in Tennessee where you've got Bill Callahan there as the offensive line coach who comes over with his son Brian who takes the head coaching job there. One of the kingmakers around the NFL. I think he was Zach Martin's first offensive line coach when he got to Dallas. I need to double check this quickly. He was the Dallas, 2012 to 2014. So helped launch that career. And for Joe, already been the beneficiary of great coaching. We mentioned Harry Hiestand was his first offensive line coach at Notre Dame, my former coach, for my money, the best offensive line coach in college football in the last 2 decades. Joe Rudolph coming over from Wisconsin, helping this last year. And now if you get him here, Joe, we talked to Duke Manyweather about this. The perfect blend of ready to come in, play now, but still so much ability that you can continue to tap into and hone, and the perfect offensive line coach to help do it at a place that's trying to turn the page after Taylor Lewan and that offensive line that for so long had been the face there under Mike Vrabel now goes by the wayside.
Yeah, and obviously with Spears and Pollard, you're going to have a kind of that 2-back system. You started getting that a little bit some last year.
Will Levis, your quarterback,
with
this?
Young quarterback, so you'd like to get a running game going. You pick up a center in free agency, so you stack that offensive line.
Skoronski, your offensive line pick from last year, who's one of the 2 bright spots in that group.
Cushenberry is a guy you picked up in the offseason. So, yeah, I think this is the move to go solidify that line in front of your young quarterback, help your running game out as well. So, if 5 is going to be the key spot to see if Alt goes to Tennessee, do the Chargers actually make a pick there? And if they do, would it be Alt or would it be a wide receiver?
Yeah, no. So I think we're all pretty secure. This one in a draft that's starting to feel like it's got some certainties up top. Certainly Caleb Williams at number 1. We'll see Jaden Daniels, the betting markets reflect a quarterback who seems pretty locked into that 2 spot with Washington. Even if he's maybe not super high on that from what we're hearing. But the Tennessee Titans and Joe Alt seems like a real happy marriage getting ready. The Colts at 15. It seems obvious, like corner overwhelming need for this team, that defensively up front, the front 7 the last couple of years has been pretty stout. Offensively, though, Dad, you still wonder, hey, they've drafted some of the wide receiver room there. They kept Michael Pittman around there as well at wide receiver. But you got a young quarterback in Anthony Richardson who's coming off an injury in Shane Steichen's system. I do wonder, hey, while that's built off the quarterback run, we saw it with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia the year they went to the Super Bowl, if maybe trying to add another weapon around him to make sure we don't have to use that element of him as much in this offense coming off injury as a premium.
We'll see if the top 2 cornerbacks, Mitchell or Arnold, are around at that point. If they are, I could see that route. But if not, Mike, we talked about the Jets and possibly Brock Bowers at tight end.
Sure.
If he doesn't go there and Brock drops, I almost wouldn't see him going by the Colts at 15. Last year, the Colts had 4 tight ends combined for 70 receptions and 6 touchdowns. The top tight end had just 30 receptions. So I could see them going for Bowers, going for that great weapon for Anthony Richardson. You want to take care of that quarterback. So that to me is going to be, if you're a Colt fan, do the Jets go Brock Bowers at 10? If not, it's possible he could fall to 15. And I don't know if I see him getting by the Colts if he does.
No, certainly. And you look at, so Michael Pittman Jr., we mentioned, re-signed there. Alec Pierce, the draft pick out of Cincinnati, who still waiting to kind of see the best of there. Josh Downs, they're picking the 3rd round last year out of North Carolina. And so I think, again, if corner's there, I think you're going corner because that's a pretty overwhelming need for that team. But Bowers is going to be interesting for a lot of teams that are looking for that added element that he can bring to an offense here. Jacksonville, not far behind them at 17, Dad, for a team that acquired a fair amount this offseason.
They did.
Defensively, offensively as well. You lose a bit at receiver, but you also bring Gabe Davis down there, Mac Jones down there to back up a guy that he was in the same draft class with, and Trevor Lawrence. What do you like for Jaguars, Dad?
So you see they're just 2 picks past the Colts. So, and that will be interesting, as we mentioned, what if there's a cornerback available, which one, and do the Colts take that cornerback, or if Bowers is there, do they take Brock Bowers? And will a cornerback, one of the top corner, I can't see one of those 2 cornerbacks still being there at 17. If they are, I mean, this is the team that had, just 16 interceptions. They're a lower part of the league as far as pass defense was concerned. So I think they would hope that maybe one of those cornerbacks is there, but I don't know if one of them is going to be there. So it'll be interesting if one is available and Brock is available at 15. What do the Colts do? Obviously, Jacksonville, keep an eye on that and see if one could fall to them.
So Jacksonville's defense is interesting. You re-signed Josh Allen, the other defensive Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Trevon Walker started to look more the part towards the back half of last season, some of that pass rushing ability coming online there. And so pairing that defensive backfield with a little more and solidifying that works. But man, on offense, Christian Kirk, some of that wide receiver room going to get healthy. You lost Calvin Ridley. Gabe Davis is not a direct replacement of that. He's a guy that struggled to be the number 2 in Buffalo. And I still think, hey, man, we're trying to make sure Trevor Lawrence doesn't add his name to the laundry list of guys from that 2021 class who are all of a sudden on the outs wherever they're at. This feels like a make or break season there. And so some mock drafts, I don't know, Brian Thomas is going to be really interesting, the other wide receiver out of LSU in this draft class.
Yeah.
Big guy that can fly. If a guy like him leaks down here, could absolutely see them going wide receiver to try and say, hey, let's continue to make this offense a strength and give our quarterback more steady options for the Jacksonville Jags at 17. America's team for our buddy Emerson Latzia. The Houston Texans, Dad, no first-round pick. They mortgaged so much of their future to go get franchise cornerstones last year, and it worked out.
Yeah.
And C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., both respective award winners on their sides of the ball for various things. They picked 42nd overall in the 2nd round here, Dad. Now, what do you see as the biggest need for this team coming off last year?
Well, I mean, they lost Grenard, their edge rusher, but they got Danielle Hunter.
Sure.
Right? Their running game wasn't great last year. They pick up Joe Mixon, so they've taken care of a couple of areas there. So do you concentrate on the defensive side? Still, that's going to be an issue. You like the receivers that they have. In Collins and Tank Dell. Obviously, the quarterback, you've helped the running game go along there. So I think they're going to lean to the defensive side of the ball again, the 42nd pick, so nowhere near the first round here.
Sure.
So I think that's the side they go, and cornerback is a very, very deep position, so you can get a quality one there.
Some of the mocks we've seen here, Mike Samer still a real versatile defensive back out of Michigan. And then D lineman Chris Jenkins out of Michigan too, who this could be more the range where we start to see some of these D linemen come off the board. And while they brought Danico Autry older, I thought Sheldon Rankins, who they lost this offseason, one of the more impactful players on that defense last year. We focused so much on the edge guys. There were games where Sheldon Rankins was unblockable on the inside, and his presence made those guys so much better. And so maybe adding something a little bit more stout up there, especially from the run defense portion of things, where Houston at times struggled last year. I think that could be a really interesting fit for a Texans team where the arrow has only been pointing up for the majority of this offseason, a team that looks to take the leap from winning a playoff game to all of a sudden being true contenders in the AFC.
Clock is ticking down. The NFL draft just so close we can taste it. The Raiders trying to make some moves before that, though. According to NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, the Raiders reached out to the Commanders, trying to move out of pick 13 up to pick 2, despite Washington's GM Adam Peters saying, we're not doing that. They still went for it anyways. Ian Rappaport also confirming that the Commanders have shown no signs of budging. The Patriots, on the other hand, sounded a lot more likely that they may move away from that number 3 pick.
Signs of budging.
Signs of budging. They're showing the signs of budging, unfortunately.
And they're putting you through it right now. I can see you wearing the stress of that. Are you gonna be okay, Claudia?
I'm
if they
saying
trade
that,
back?
but at the same time, it's such a good problem to have because it's like, okay, hey, if we don't get our quarterback, at least we are rebuilding. We're doing the thing that
Boy,
we said
what
we
an
would.
optimistic
It
glass
hurts
half
me
full
to
look
say
at
that.
that.
Yeah, well, the other issue, too, is, I mean, we talk about bust. Not just quarterback bust. There's bust for other positions, too. So, yeah, maybe we're getting more options than just one, but it still works.
Here's what I don't understand. First, I don't see Washington trading out of that second spot at all.
You sure? I mean, Jaden Daniels, it sounds like Diana Rossini, our good friend this morning, doing a great job over at The Athletic, put out some buzz that she's hearing around the league right now. It said Jaden Daniels was given a high grade by many teams. While the quarterback is cool, in quotes, with Washington, I'm told his, quote, dream world, he would reunite with Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce, who was an assistant at ASU when he was there as a Sun Devil, or play under Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota.
Listen, that would mean a quarterback would try and manipulate a la John Elway, a la Eli Manning. I don't see that at all. You could sit there and say you want to play for whoever you want. And at the end of the day, 99.9% of the players go where they're drafted and they're going to play. I don't see that happening at all. Here's a question I have for you New England fans and Mike as well. We keep talking about
and Mike,
the third pick, and it won't be good for a new quarterback or to go to New England. They're not ready for it. The whole idea in the NFL is to find a quarterback.
Yes.
If you're New England at the third slot and it's a new regime, and you have a grade on a quarterback there that would be the third quarterback, that's a franchise quarterback, you take him.
Well, yeah, but the whole conversation we've had this offseason is about how, hey, the landing spot matters a lot more in quarterback development and success than we've ever had before. There just aren't a lot of quarterbacks that are able to bootstrap franchises into relevancy on their own without the surrounding infrastructure.
But you have to. Did Houston have the infrastructure last year?
Better than
they had much better than Patriots.
Yes.
My thing, though, is
they were a franchise with much more to offer.
So at what point do you say we have a grade on a franchise quarterback? We picked number 3, but you know what? We don't have the infrastructure, so we're not taking him. We're going to wait. That's ridiculous.
No, I agree. That's why I think
it's ridiculous.
That's why
if you have a franchise grade on a guy, you take him.
Dad, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're ignoring a lot of recent history and saying that'll work out well. I get it. We've got all the numbers to back up that between the savings you get, the hit rate on quarterbacks,
right,
the savings that you get at that position, it is worthwhile to take that swing. I'm just saying, if you were asking me right now, the way that we're looking at that 2021 draft class we keep talking about,
right,
where all these quarterbacks flamed out.
Including Mac Jones.
Yeah, including Mac Jones. If you're asking me to, hey, go through this draft class, and after this one, if the Patriots pick a quarterback, say, Mike, pick the team that you think most likely is going to be without that quarterback in 3 years, I would immediately point to the New England Patriots.
But that doesn't mean they shouldn't take one.
There's also a world.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's a high likelihood of failure given the surrounding environment.
I get it because it's a 50% hit rate, but in the fact that you don't take as much of a money hit now that you have a rookie wage scale, it's not as bad as it was. I just don't. I get everybody saying, well, he's going to fail there. He's going to fail there. They have to take one. If they, do not have a franchise grade for one of the third quarterback, because 2 are going to go.
Yeah, obviously, if they love the guy, but in a world where we've talked about these prospects outside of Caleb Williams as maybe a little bit closer together, or maybe less of a sure thing. We found warts on all these guys. If it's outside of we're not talking about a bunch of Andrew Luck prospects here, Dad.
I'm getting the vibe that even if it's a franchise quarterback, they have such a horrible infrastructure, they need to trade down and move on. That's garbage. That's ridiculous.
I think the issue, too, with a lot of people is they keep comparing it to Mac Jones. Mac Jones fell to us, and we brought him in, and we didn't have the right pieces around him, but I also don't think he's as good as Drake May is. So the ceiling's higher with Drake May. Also, they brought in Brissett to be that veteran presence. If you don't want to throw him out there and destroy him, which happened to Mac Jones, then that's fine. Let him sit. But I agree with you. I don't think waiting to find somebody next year in free agency is going to work out for this team. And that comes from a fan who, I understand both sides, but I think the quarterback makes the most.
I just think this is one of those cases, and I'd be curious for Patriots fans where for so much of this offseason, you have been sold, hey, new regime.
Yes.
We're not going to do things the way that we used to. I think it was Mike Silver yesterday that said, good for the Crafts for taking back their franchise. From what? The winningest 2 decades in the history of modern pro sports?
Bad couple of years.
Yeah,
all
right, maybe we need to simmer down a little bit on that, but I think Patriots fans have now had this expectation, we're going to take a quarterback. Our franchise isn't just going to be trading back anymore, where if we had been sold that earlier in the offseason, I think a lot of us would be sitting here fine saying, hey, the Patriots have a lot of needs. If they want to trade back a little bit, maybe they take one of these other quarterbacks that we're talking about, Penix or Bo Nix, later in the first round or early in the second round with the picks that they amass in that. You could sell that under the guise of also, hey, we'll get some studs at other positions and we'll start to rebuild the foundation of this roster. I just think it's an expectation, Claudia. The reaction I saw from you was a fan base that has been told, hey, we're different now. And quarterback's fun to sell to fans. We can all get excited about quarterbacks because we think all of them are going to be Joe Burrow and C.J. Stroud. That's not how it works.
They want to quench that thirst for good quarterback play, which we have not had since Tom Brady. But I agree, it's a deep quarterback class, so I wouldn't be mad as long as we
we're on the same page, Mike. If when the third pick comes up, if their grade for, let's say, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, for Drake May, or if they think it's J.J. McCarthy. I have no idea. It's all what they think, not what we think. If they think that grade of that pick is a franchise quarterback and they don't have Bo Nix in that category and they don't have Michael Penix Jr. in that category or J.J. McCarthy in that category, but they have Drake May, they have to take him, correct?
Well, yeah, if they think he's Andrew Luck,
No, not Andrew Luck. Their grade says
if they're great. I'm saying the way I look at these quarterbacks does not reflect that, so I can only think of that so much.
That's all. I just want to make sure because I'm hearing way too much that no matter what, they need to trade out of that pick, which is crazy.
I don't think the idea is no matter what. I think the idea is factoring in that we don't think these other quarterbacks are as sure things as everybody else that we've talked about.
I don't think any of these quarterbacks are sure things this year. I don't think not one. Well, you keep bringing up Andrew Luck. There ain't one quarterback in this draft that comes in like Andrew Luck.
There's absolutely not.
Not at all.
But I'm saying Caleb Williams is at least thought about as the most secure in this class.
Right.
Because every step of the way when we've talked about, Caleb Williams, he wants ownership stake, or he's this Gen Z quarterback, he's different in paints. You know what it has done to his draft stock? Not a damn thing. We have not had any of these conversations about flirt with other quarterbacks at that number one spot in a way that I thought we might with Drake May and him.
I just think it's been too easy to say, the New England's not ready for a great quarterback. They have too many holes to get out of that spot, which is ridiculous. If you think he's the man, you take him.
It's so interesting how we've all talked this up a lot more in the last few months compared to what this was at the start of draft season here. So I do think, I don't know. Ultimately, I don't think we're going to end up seeing any movement out of the top 3. I think at this point,
I agree with
the simplest solution is we kind of, I think, know how this is going to go, which makes it really unsexy for the TV product of draft night, where it's probably going to be Caleb Williams, number 1 off the board. Even if I disagree with it, it seems like Washington's going to take Jaden Daniels at number 2. The Patriots are probably going to take Drake May at number 3, which I would actually advise if he's sitting there on the board.
And they have that grade for him, right?
They do. And
because the next quarterback,
you need grade. You love talking about the grade.
But that's the key.
I understand it's the key, but you love it.
I know I love it because it's the only thing to me that matters of what your thought is, what a team's thought is of a player. Is it franchise quarterback capable? Because the other thing is the next quarterback needy teams are like Minnesota and Denver. So if somebody does want to trade up, you're going to get a haul.
Well, yeah, and that's what we all think 4 is. I do think with the Arizona Cardinals at 4, you're going to get Minnesota probably trading up to take J.J. McCarthy there because they're scared of the world without a quarterback, considering the way the rest of that team is structured.
Did you want a high draft grade when you were getting looked at for the draft?
Well, yeah, it would have been nice.
Okay. I mean, a draft grade's pretty important.
Well, yeah, it is. We're talking about how we think about these quarterbacks and players.
Right.
Maybe they're listening.
I guess that is. We give our opinions, but as I continue to say, at the end of the day, the teams don't care what we think.
They should.
They should.
Drake May now minus 330 though to go number 3 overall.
See, how about that?
Okay.
That's the grade at the DraftKings Sportsbook.
That's
Boom.
the grade.
All right, time to finish off the show the way we always do. This, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you off into your day. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating. Check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the DraftKings Network, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern on the Best of GoJo and Golic on VSiN. I'm going to keep getting more comfortable here as the week goes along. I am just sinking into my corner.
Friday, you're going to be laying down.
I mean, listen, if you're going to give me a comfy couch to sit on here, I'm eventually going to love is blind this thing and just go neck up in a blanket and really feel myself here.
I don't blame you.
We'll also be really tired coming off the draft Friday morning, so this is all lining up incredibly well here. As it lined up incredibly well for us today, our thanks to everyone who joined the show here. Bo Nix, very excited to have him on the program. Guy who's looking forward to having his name called, the former Oregon quarterback. You missed any of that, if you couldn't check us out live, make sure you get that wherever you get your podcast or available right here on YouTube as soon as we get done. Before we get to this, that, and the third, my father has a question he wants to pose to me and Claudia. We don't know what it is. Dad, the floor is yours.
So we're here at the DraftKings studio in Boston, and one of the great things they have here is they have snacks.
Yeah, they do.
Right? They have snacks.
No, they do.
And occasionally we all like to eat healthy. I think we're doing good for ourselves. Yeah. So part of the snacks is they have the little mini candies. You know, not a full candy bar, but the little mini candies. My question is dark chocolate Milky Way actually healthy for you?
I didn't even know they made that.
Oh, you didn't know they made
I had
dark
about
chocolate?
10 of them the last break.
Yeah, it's technically.
What would your justification for them being healthy?
Dark
Just
chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. Is it? Don't they say dark chocolate is actually healthy for you?
No. Well, no. I actually saw. Well, I think it's better. It's good for your heart. Or something.
Yeah, there's something like that, but it's got to be like a certain amount of pure cacao and all that
But there's
stuff.
also there's a million other things in that.
Yeah, that's the other problem.
I don't know.
Like a lot of like processed sugar in those.
So, but does the dark chocolate negate the bad part of it?
No.
I don't
to make it maybe not healthy, but are we canceling out?
No.
No.
You know how you go out, you eat or you drink, and then you work out the next day just to kind of cancel it all out?
Yeah.
Does the dark chocolate cancel out the bad?
All right, so we've got the nutrition facts of the dark chocolate Milky Way over here.
That's a bar, though. Remember, these are minis
30.
we're talking about.
Oh,
I think the saturated fat and the added sugars, 58% of your daily value of added sugars for a type 2 diabetic, probably not what you're looking for.
But again, I'm talking the minis. That's a bar.
Yeah, I know, but how many minis did you say you ate?
About 10.
That's about a bar.
Okay.
All right. Well.
So I think
For breakfast? What do you mean? We got in here at 8 in the morning. Was that your breakfast?
You got a problem with what I eat?
Actually, closer to 6. Okay. No, I don't. I'm just,
No, hey, listen, your body, your choice. Like, I'm down with all that.
Yeah.
But
All right.
at the same
just
time,
wondering.
I don't think I can co-sign that as
I was trying
it.
I was trying.
Believe me, that's boy math. 100%. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say a hard no.
All right. All
But
right.
it's fine because it tasted good, so who cares? Right?
Okay, move on then. Move on. I'm done.
All right, you know what? Let's get to this then. Speaking of things that taste great here, there's apparently a man on TikTok. He's a TikToker, old Jewish man, is known for making Costco content, and in this case, Costco chicken content. Here, take a look at the video.
You know who I am. I don't want any trouble. I got 5 chickens. I don't want any LED on them. None. Scan my shirt 5 times, buddy. 5 times. Done.
So for anyone that wasn't able to watch this, the man was at Costco. He had 5 what looked like rotisserie chickens in his checkout cart.
By the way.
Well, I love a good rotisserie chicken. You smash
Chicken
one of those
Adam,
after a
yeah.
long day, just dive into it. Real primal.
Yeah.
But he didn't want the LED light from the scanner at the checkout touching the chicken, apparently. So he had the barcode for the chicken printed on his shirt that did, in fact, scan. So, Dad, is this innovative or too much?
Absolutely innovative for somebody who, but I need to know, just like I found out by looking at the servings that the dark chocolate covered Milky Way is probably not good for me. Do we know scientifically that the scanner light does something to the chicken? I mean, is there anything proven there?
Really everything that you get in America is overprocessed and bad for you and so many chemicals that this man is doing it for TikTok. I'm sorry to burst the bubble.
Okay.
But there's no way that LED is doing anything worse than what's already.
Are we impressed that like an 80-year-old is doing something for TikTok?
Unfortunately, that's the way of the world.
He looks like Kurt Vonnegut, too.
He does.
It's really weird.
He does.
My thing is, he doesn't want the LED light on the chicken, but he wants it directly on his heart.
On his heart.
That's a good point.
It's like when you go to the dentist and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna give you like X-rays of this or whatever, and they put the like lead jacket on you and then they leave the room. It's like, should we be shooting this through my body?
How bad is it for guys when they do that and they cover your couillons with the thing and then walk out? You're like, wait a minute, this can't be good, right?
Oh man, I just realized.
I can't relate to
No,
that.
that's
fair
point.
point.
I can't relate.
I just realized too, we had the Chicken Man on our LED wall over here, so we're really putting him in a bind right now. This man's surrounded by LED lights left and right. So we'll leave him to his chicken. God bless. I'm going to have to get rotisserie chicken after that.
Oh,
so good.
I could
Real
smash
like,
that.
just incredible
Wash
protein.
it down with a good chocolate-covered Milky Way.
Hey, honestly, a
Dark
good dessert, all things
Yeah, I
considered.
can do dark chocolate.
That's boy lunch,
Overall.
baby. Let's get to some girl math here. Caitlin Clark doing a ton of it lately as she makes her Nike deal official.
Yes. Some woman math, first of all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark getting paid.
Grown.
From Nike. Just kidding. Signing a $28 million contract that spans 8 years, includes the signature shoe. It'll be the richest sponsorship contract for a women's basketball player. Interesting, though, as these numbers are coming out, Armour and Adidas also participated in contract discussions in February. Puma showed some interest, but then they were told the bidding would start at $3 million. They said, just kidding.
Wow.
We're out.
Ouch.
Clark received offers of $16 million over 4 years from Under Armour and $6 million over 4 years from Adidas, both signature shoes, so technically more money over a shorter amount of time. I don't disagree with her. I think she made the right choice.
Yes.
Some people are saying, why wouldn't she go the other way? But what do you mean? It's Nike.
Yeah, some
$28
people
million.
want to make this like a bet on yourself thing in the WDAD, but I think this is about, hey, the brand value of a place like Nike, that kind of longevity and a partnership that seems like it'll be a true partnership for an athlete of her stature.
This was a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know the company's going to be around. It's a great deal. You get the shoe. I mean, other deals, is a lot of money as well, but this was a no-brainer. Good for her. I think it's fantastic.
Awesome. Interesting time in the shoe game. I saw Marvin Harrison Jr. of the current draft class sign with New Balance, who's having a bit of a moment right now. The fresh newbies signing a pretty deep depth chart there. We've seen Kawhi Leonard, Cameron Brink, I think, coming out of Stanford, also a New Balance athlete.
I also really love.
Yeah, they're in that commercial.
How serious is Puma? $3 million. I'm out.
I know.
I can't believe Under Armour. It's all getting very interesting right now in the shoe game right there. Puma making some quality product here.
Yeah, but they don't want to pay, I guess.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money for not even knowing, and we don't have to get into this conversation again, but not knowing what it's going to look like in the W for her. Injury is also a concern, right? It's a commitment.
Actually, Puma $3 million a year. I'm wrong.
Yeah,
$3 million a year.
It's.
You know what?
I mean,
I didn't mean to diss Puma. That's actually a nice amount. My fault.
Yeah. No.
I'm open to wearing Puma. So if we'd like to talk,
that is true. You got that leftover Caitlin Clark money here.
Boom. Yeah.
We are for sale.
That's exactly right.
Just let that be known right now. Let's get to the third. Claudia, Kuwait got their ass whooped.
For real. Like 57-0 ass whooping in the IIHF U18 World Qualifier. The shots on goal, 122-1. How is this even hockey, by the way?
I was just going to say,
hockey.
We should make clear.
Yeah, let's make clear the sport.
This wasn't basketball.
No.
This wasn't football. This wasn't anything else where points are at an usually high clip. This is a hockey game that finished up 57-0 here. I don't know what Kuwait's history with the sport is, but I would imagine it is not long and rich.
What I would like to know is the Kuwait goallie, when did he tap out?
Right, that's what I was
At what point is he looking over the bench and giving the old hand-on-head signal of like, get me the hell out of this game? 122 shots.
Yeah, the shots were 122-1. So forget the offense, stifling defense from the folks in Thailand.
I don't even think that's stifling. I just think this team should not be on ice. No offense.
You know what? I have a great deal of respect, though, still at the end of all this. Handshake lines. After that, you got to fight someone. Yeah. At the very least, you got to fight someone if you're going down like that.
Here's what I want to know. What were the odds and stuff on this before the game?
Oh, God.
What was the over-under? What was the line?
Yeah.
I would love to know what it was.
I might have to start betting on Thailand.
Wow.
I was going to say, it feels like we could have gone out there and at least gotten one.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, not my
I can't even escape, but I'd probably.
Slid off on
it wouldn't have been a great time. We hope you had a great time with this show, though. If you did, download, subscribe, rate, review it, leave it a 5-star rating, and check us out here live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you. We love you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.